Good morning. You're in the loop. Every week we talk with the people who make San Antonio a better place to live. Thanks for joining us in the loop. Here's your host, Milton Glick.
And welcome to In the Loop. I'm Milton Glick, and that's exactly what we do. We get you caught up with the people and the organizations that are making San Antonio a better place to live. And we're going to talk to our guest today, Texas State Director of the Nature Conservancy, Suzanne Scott. And this is going to be a great interview, Suzanne. Do you know why?
Why is that?
So I am, full disclosure, big fan of Nature Conservancy, and it started off with my mom. We were talking about mothers a little while ago.
Yes.
It started off with her when she got information on you guys, and she went, oh, this just makes perfect sense. What a good approach to what they do.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about that. And then
Sure.
my wife, who I married, well, it's now been a number of years, but is a big fan too. So
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's do this.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about the history and the mission of the Nature Conservancy.
Sure.
Folks have probably heard about it, but maybe don't know everything.
Great. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here today. I'm
Sure.
excited to talk with you and to really talk a lot about the programs that the Nature Conservancy in Texas is doing. I guess we'll start with, first of all, the Nature Conservancy is the largest environmental organization in the world. We operate in 80 countries throughout the globe.
Wow.
And we are in every state in the nation. So all 50 states have a TNC chapter. And we here in Texas, we were founded in 60 years ago. We just celebrated our 60th anniversary and been operating in Texas. Primarily, we started when the Nature Conservancy was founded as a land trust, so doing a lot of land conservation. And that was really our bread and butter. We did a lot of that throughout the state of Texas. We did protected properties for both individuals that wanted to that were concerned that their properties were going to be at threat for whatever reason. And then we also worked with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to do parks. We also worked with the National Park Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So we've had a lot of partnerships over the years to preserve land. So some of the things that people would be very familiar with that the Nature Conservancy has been involved in is we helped protect Enchanted Rock. We also have
I didn't know that.
Yes, we protected Big Bend National Park as well as Big Bend State Park. We've also were very involved with South Padre Island, Honey Creek Natural Area. Here in close to San Antonio, people may be familiar with the Bracken Bat Cave, which is kind of near Natural Bridge Caverns out there, kind of at the county line between Bexar County and Comal County. And Bat Conservation International has the Bat Cave. But a few years back, almost 10 years ago, there was a potential development that was going to be adjacent to the Bracken Bat Cave, and we worked with the city of San Antonio, Mayor Ron Nuremberg, who we are celebrating his kind of swan song, if you will, right now. I mean, he's done such an amazing job for this city, but he was very instrumental when he was a city councilman to protecting that development that was going to be, I think it was 3,500 homes or 4,000 homes that were going to be right adjacent to the Bracken Bat Cave. So through the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program, which we are very involved in here in San Antonio, and philanthropy, private philanthropy through the Nature Conservancy and Bat Conservation International, we were able to acquire that land. And now it's part of the buffer zone around the Bracken Bat Cave and part of our Cibolo Bluffs preserve that we have out there. So, again, it's just knowing sometimes we have our own efforts that we're pursuing, and then other times we have to be responsive to what's happening and where the conservation needs are greatest. And we go and see what we can do to help preserve very important species like bats in this case, or land conservation, water conservation. We've done a lot of the work on the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. We are one of the land agents along with Green Spaces Alliance. So again, work on a lot of projects here.
Yeah, and what I want to do too, Suzanne, is if people want more information on what you're talking about, you tell me. What do we give a website for just the state of Texas? Do we give a website for the
Well, it's nature.org, and if they
that's
go
easy.
there, they can go and put in Texas, and if they want specific
Okay.
information, then the Texas pages will come up, and they can get more information about what we're doing, our events, if they want to come out to any of we have 37 preserves throughout the state. All the, again, we're all over the state, so things that people enjoy doing, and we have what's the word? Open days is the thing. I was
is that
thinking
right?
open
Okay.
days at some of our preserves. So the Davis Mountains Preserve, which is very popular out in West Texas. People love to go out there and camp and hike, and we have open days there. We have open days we have a Climber Meadow, which is a beautiful preserved prairie that's up near Dallas. We have, of course, Cibolo Bluffs and the Bracken Bat Cave. That people can go to the Bat Conservation International website because the bats are flying now. It's summertime, so I would encourage people to go on there. And
It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it truly is. It is a wonder of the world.
It
that
is.
Bat Cave, and if people haven't gone, they really need to go. First of all, Bat Conservation International is an awesome organization, great partner. And they do a fabulous job when the people that go out there to actually see the bats coming out at night, they kind of do some education. They talk about the bats. They really engage with kids. So it's really a wonderful time for people to go out and learn about the bats and why they're so important and why we need to protect them and how just critical they are for the agricultural protection of all the bugs that they eat and the things that we don't need pesticides for because the bats are doing it naturally. So it's just the importance of nature in an urban environment like this especially. We're always called upon to look at pollinators and bats and birds and butterflies. We need to protect all of that because it's so critical for our food as well as just the health of the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I will tell you after doing that at Bracken and stuff, it is, so I went in kind of like, oh, it's going to be okay. This will be interesting. And it's jaw-dropping interesting.
Yes.
It is just, So where do people go? Do they just Google Bracken Cave, Bat Caves?
Yes, they can do that or go to the Bat Conservation International website,
Okay,
and I'm
BCI.
sure they have a link there. We have a smaller bat cave that also has that's open days that you could go to our website. It's called the Eckerd James Bat Cave, and it's near Mason.
Oh, I
and
didn't know
it's
that.
It's very small, but it's very intimate. I mean, you're right there, and just incredible amount of bats come out of there as well. So, people like to see bats emerging from caves. That's another small one, and there's several throughout the state, but these two are, of course, Bracken is the premier, but then also this smaller one that we have.
You touched on it. Our guest today on In the Loop is Suzanne Scott. She is the Texas State Director of the Nature Conservancy. We're talking about that. We'll talk in a few minutes about how you can get involved, and I'm guessing that how you can get involved can take on a wide variety of different ways.
Yes.
But you did sort of touch on it when you talked about the bats or you talked about the Edwards Aquifer, but talk about why, I guess, and I apologize if it's redundant, but why the Nature Conservancy does what it does. What is the umbrella why?
Well, the reason why the Nature Conservancy is here is we're just protecting all. Remember.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'm trying to get our actual.
Okay.
Our
Well, while you do
statement,
that, I
but,
will tell people that they can find you at nature.org
Yes.
/Texas. I always get my backs and my forwards messed up. But yes, and they can find your website. But yes, nature.org will show you all the things that you've talked about, I imagine, whether it's in this state, this country, or in another country. So yes, ma'am, you were going to say?
So, well, I mean, we're protecting the land and waters on which all life depends. That's our mission statement. And really, when you're thinking about all life, you're thinking about all the biodiversity as well as people. I mean, people and nature have to thrive together, and that is really what the Nature Conservancy is all about. We are protecting land, water, coastal environments, marine environments. We look at climate issues. So we're doing everything that we can, along with a lot of other partners.
Yes,
it's
it
not
sounds
just
like
us. It's a big effort to really address the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis that's happening simultaneously. And this is something that is very important to making sure that both the wonderful wildlife that we all love as well as people can thrive together on this planet.
Do me a favor. I've got lots of questions that are bumping around in my head.
Yes, of course.
But if there's something you want to specifically talk about, you just interrupt me and go, Milton, before we stop,
Yes.
I want to make sure we cover this.
Okay.
Okay, so how does it, let's take, it's Honeywell, right? That's in Bulverde. Did I pronounce that right?
The Honey Creek.
Honey Creek, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Honey Creek. So is that a good typical example of how something might take place, or is there another example that you really like to tell people how it goes?
Sure. Let me give you sort of that example, which is a little bit more complicated, and then more of a traditional type of land transaction. In this case, these are land transactions. The Honey Creek Natural Area, there was already there's a state park, Guadalupe State Park, and adjacent to Guadalupe State Park is the Honey Creek Natural Area. And the Nature Conservancy was involved from the very beginning, back in the 80s, to protecting the Honey Creek Natural Area.
Okay.
And it is on a beautiful creek, pristine stream that runs into the Guadalupe River, and it's just a gorgeous place. And what we had learned is there was a gentleman who owned some property adjacent to that Honey Creek Natural Area that was going to develop that property, 519 acres, and have a really dense subdivision there. And it was going to cut down trees. It was going to potentially have runoff into the creek. It was going to have, just other threats to this pristine area. And so there was a lot of folks that were very interested in protecting this area because of the nature of this place. You wanted to make sure that it could stay intact and the environmental significance could be preserved. So we approached the owner, and we just said, would you be interested in selling? Is this something that you would be even interested in? And, of course, he could make much more money if he would have developed it into a residential area. But he realized where it was located. He saw the conservation value, and he said, yeah, he would be interested. So we put together a coalition of Texas Parks and Wildlife, who was, of course, adjacent there with the Honey Creek Natural Area. And we started talking to our philanthropic partners, people that we know are very interested in this particular area, are very motivated by protecting sensitive lands and waters. And we started talking to them, and we were able to bring together very generous donors with the Texas Parks and Wildlife to be able to make an offer to this landowner. And he was willing to sell, and then we purchased it and then transferred it to Texas Parks and Wildlife. It was complicated because he had permits and he had water and he had a lot of other things that he had to sort of untangle. But ultimately, it was the right thing to do. He felt great about it. His family felt great about it. He realized that ultimately that was the best thing for that property because it's in a very growing area around Bulverde. There's a lot of development happening. This development sure would have added and added homes, but the way that it's been put together now, there's also going to be some schools that are going to be on the property that they worked with the school district. And it's going to be a living laboratory for those kids to now have access to this Honey Creek area and then the Texas Parks and Wildlife to expand the park. So it was a win-win-win all the way around. And that was a complicated example. It took a long time to get it done, but ultimately it had a great conservation outcome. Yeah,
and now you're as you are talking about this and how it all went down, it's not that it sounds easy, it's just that it sounds like in this particular case, everything came together well, including the owner. But what are some of the challenges, more challenging examples that you have? Because I imagine when you're dealing with developers and stuff like that there's money, there's all kinds of personalities involved. Yeah, every project has some challenges. I mean, we have tried on other occasions to acquire land that we felt would be best in conservation, and it just didn't work out because we couldn't offer enough money. I mean, private property rights are extremely important in the state of Texas, and we honestly are very thankful that people are
attached to their land and they want to keep it. But we've been in a few situations where it's been more challenging and we haven't been able to have the deal go the way that we would want it to go. But usually we leave those, and I've only been at the Nature Conservancy for almost 5 years, but some of the folks that have been around for a really long time, it's interesting because they may have started negotiations with someone a while back on a particular transaction. And then the parties part ways and they just say this isn't going to work. And then inevitably, a decade later or so, these people have already had a relationship with us. They come back and they say, now the time is right. My family is in a better situation. My family's in a better situation. This generation today wants to do something maybe different than the previous generation. So we're able to work through those situations. And for a growing state like Texas, we are constantly looking at opportunities for conservation, and some of them are acquisitions, that become parks. But most of them are conservation easements. And I don't know if your listeners are familiar with a conservation easement, but basically what that does is it allows for us to come in, and there's various programs. The state has a program, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, but so does the federal government. They have programs through the Farm Bill that help protect working lands. And then there's several foundations that are, as I mentioned with Honey Creek, that are very interested in land conservation. So a way a conservation easement would work is, say, a landowner wants to stay on the land, but they want to figure out how that could be saved in perpetuity, but they don't want to leave the property and they want to protect it. So if it's a working land, say they're grazing it or some sort of agriculture, or they have wildlife on the property that needs to be protected. It's like a habitat for wildlife, or they maybe have an endangered species on their property. This often happens. We can go do an assessment, or if it's a grassland, that's another area of conservation. If they are interested in protecting that land, then what we do is that we talk to them about a conservation easement, and what that does is you can buy the development rights of the property up front, and the owner agrees to take compensation for those development rights. They agree that they will not develop their property. They can stay on the property. They have complete fee ownership of that property. They come up with a management plan. We have to monitor it on an annual basis to make sure that they're staying in the conformance with the conservation easement. But it's a great way for them. Then they can take that money up front. They can get a tax deduction for some if they don't. Some folks donate it. Some people do part donate, part get money, and then they can put that money back into their property, or for whatever reason it's their funding. So these programs that come from the state of Texas or the federal government are usually a matching program. So the public funding will come in, and then a match will be required. So when the match is required, sometimes owners will just donate that match, or if we have to go and try to raise money to fill the gap, then we can do that as well. So it's just a great way to have conservation, but keeping people on the land, and most importantly, keep working lands working. It's so important that we preserve our agricultural heritage here in Texas.
Do some of the things that you do come about because you're learning kind of as the situation arises? It sounds like a little bit that y'all have very smart people who are saying, okay, what if we, and then they figure out how to do it and present it.
Yes, and there are areas of the state that we are focused on. So these are just primary areas of conservation that we have worked on over time. One of those is near Los Maples. In that area, we have a preserve over there called Love Creek, and over the years, we've worked with many of the landowners over there to protect either through conservation easement, or we've also acquired some additional properties there to protect that whole corridor near Los Maples. Some of the properties that we've done there have been mitigation properties. For example, there have been programs in the past, government programs, that if you're going to develop in one place and you're going to, say, affect birds, golden cheek warblers was one for a while, then if you're going to cut down trees or have a negative or an adverse impact on the property that you're developing, you can go offset that through mitigation lands. So we've done that in that particular area near Los Maples. So there's all kinds of programs where we work with developers to figure out we can mitigate their impact, and then we can also advance conservation. And what happens is when you have a lot of conservation in one concentrated area, then more people are likely to want to continue to conserve. So then you have contiguous properties, more habitat protection, and more, in this case, water protection, because there's a lot of important water features over there as well.
All right, our guest today is Suzanne Scott. She is the Texas State Director of the Nature Conservancy here in Texas, the Texas aspect of it. Okay, now you promised me you will interrupt me if there's something you think of, but what we have about 7 minutes left. I want to make sure we hit on everything. Sure. What are things our listeners can do if they want to get involved with your organization, if they see the value in it and touches their heart?
Absolutely.
How do they get involved?
Well, first of all, they can become a member.
Okay.
They can go on the nature.org website, and they can become a member of the Nature Conservancy. And by becoming a member of the Nature Conservancy, and that can be for a very small fee. I mean, I don't know all the membership levels, but again, people have gotten engaged with the Nature Conservancy for $20, and then some people, pay more than that. But in any case, if they're a member, then they start getting our materials. They find out what's going on. They're on. They get our newsletters. They understand, the events that we're doing, et cetera. We also, on our website, you can find out if there are open days and things that you want to come to. Then that's another way that you can get engaged. And then through that, there's volunteer efforts at these particular preserves, and we always are trying to look for volunteers that can help support various projects and programs that we do. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved. One other area that I think is important that since we're getting close to the end here.
We're fine.
So here in San Antonio, it's an urban area, and a lot of times people don't think about conservation playing out in their own city, particularly because this is a city and, there's not these huge open spaces. But we've been very successful in protecting water in this city, as you know, with
Big
the Edwards
challenge,
Aquifer Protection Program, which is the Nature Conservancy was very involved in getting that passed by the voters when it started in 2000, and then subsequently several other elections that have supported that program. And it's changed recently. It's now funded through San Antonio Water System because the sales tax was diverted into the Ready to Work program.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll go to VIA after that. And but the program is still very active, and it's doing conservation easements over the Edwards Aquifer, and we're very involved in that hugely successful program. So people know about water, and other things that I think are important as it relates to water in this city is before I came to the Nature Conservancy, I was the general manager of the San Antonio River Authority, and we did a lot of work on water protection. So we would always say clean, safe, and enjoyable on the river. So clean, of course, is water quality, and then safe is flood control. And these two things kind of go hand in hand. And one of the things that we've been working on at the Nature Conservancy is to advance what we call nature-based solutions. Now, that sounds kind of wonky, but it is really trying to use nature in a functional way, like nature is infrastructure.
Huh.
So as we're developing our community and you look around and you see all this asphalt or this concrete or these hardened surfaces, and we have rain events like we had a couple of weeks ago, and then you see all this flooding. Well, the reason that flooding is happening is that we're building up in the watershed. We're sort of covering up the areas where nature could function if it just had the opportunity to slow down water, spread it out, soak it in. And more as we develop, those aspects of nature are being taken away. What we're trying to do is let's incorporate nature wherever we can in a functional way. So as we're developing new developments, as we're thinking about new roadways, as we're thinking about neighborhoods, let's encourage through our elected officials processes by which we have to get those developers to incorporate nature. And in a functional way, not just put a tree up because it's pretty, but put a tree up that has a tree well or a bioswale or a rain garden that actually functions when it rains, also uses the water more efficiently and effectively. It's not to stop development. It's really just to look at development in a more sustainable way. It cools our cities. It improves our water quality because the water that comes off parking lots can go into rain gardens that are filtered before it goes into creeks, et cetera. So it's just this is an area that we're very passionate about. Also, from a flood control perspective, if you do more nature-based solutions, natural infrastructure, even along with engineered solutions, they can work together and have more multiple benefits. So we just encourage the community as we're thinking about as decisions are being made, to think about that and make sure your elected officials know that you want to develop that way. You want to develop in a more sustainable way. We love our parks, which we are very passionate about parks. But parks are kind of designated areas for recreation. If we could just take the value of that park and spread it out in along our roadways and along our developments, and you can still have the beauty of nature as we develop as a community.
Our guest today, Suzanne Scott. She is the Texas State Director of the Nature Conservancy, and we almost are out of time. So this is great information. This is this has been Nature Conservancy 101. So
yes.
You have the last minute. What do you want to tell our listeners?
I just want to tell everybody that, first of all, if you've ever supported the Nature Conservancy, thank you very much for your support, and we really appreciate that. We just encourage you to get involved and to come to our website, learn about the Nature Conservancy, but then also think about the future of the city that you want to live in, and let's all work together to make nature part of our infrastructure.
Go to nature.org to learn more. And I guess there are events that are coming up, and I can see, if I go to your website, I can see like when Honey Creek is available to go to. Or?
Well, that's a state park.
Okay,
so you can go to the state park website for Honey Creek. You can get those. You can get access through the state.
Very cool.
Okay,
Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm Milton Glick. We're going to say goodbye for today, but it's nature.org, and if you want more information, you call me here at the station, and I will be happy to get it for you. You join us next week as we keep you in the loop.
Thanks for joining us in the loop. We look forward to bringing you next week's show with Milton Glick.